You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Join us and unwind with a good book. Welcome to Relaxing Reads.
Hi, it's Deb in Halifax.
Hi, it's Simone in Vancouver.
Hey, it's Tanya in Edmonton.
Well, our latest read, Death by a Thousand Cuts, is a collection of short stories and comes from author Shashi Bhat. A writer discovers that her ex has published a novel about their breakup. An immunocompromised woman falls in love only to have her body betray her. After her boyfriend makes an insensitive comment, a college student finds an experimental procedure that promises to turn her brown eyes blue. A Reddit post about a man's habit of grabbing his girlfriend's breast prompts a shocking confession. An unsettling second date leads to the testing of boundaries. And when a woman begins to lose her hair, she embarks on an increasingly nightmarish search for answers. It's in these stories, I believe, that many women will find very familiar moments. And ladies, I don't know where to begin because I was hearing and seeing and feeling all of these women in other women that I've known, a bit of myself, but I'm wondering if you've connected to one or all, or what are your thoughts?
I mean, there were definitely some of them you connect with. I think in each, there were 9 short stories total in this book. And I think in each of the stories, there is a relatable moment. Maybe it's not to the full extent, but I feel, it was a really good look at to just sometimes our internal thoughts, what we're thinking, the things that we've experienced, we're not alone in experiencing. Like the one about the boyfriend always grabbing. Like, I've experienced that, where it's just like groping and all that. And it's like, no, you can't just do that whenever you want. Like, there still has to be consent there, even if it's a partnership. So that was interesting. The Giantess was an interesting one as well for me. I think that was just a story about a woman who was just afraid to take up space. And maybe that was the overall theme. But that was, it was really interesting to kind of go through each story, and it changed up. And I typically don't read a lot of short stories. So I feel like you need more time to absorb each one before you move to the next, or else it's easy to kind of be like, wait, what is that, the same character, or what happened? So that part I had to kind of pause with, but interesting read for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I just picked up the book. Honestly, I went on vacation. I was on a plane to Montreal, and I thought, okay, well, good time. Grab a glass of wine and read the book. And I found myself reading the first short story and then the second. And then I'm like, no, Tanya, I think you need to take some space between the stories and just let them absorb. I mean, Simone, to your point, it's just like with the other books that we've read, we've had an entire book to digest and to really connect with the characters. And with short stories, you don't have that much time, right? So I feel like you just need to pay, or I needed to pay just a little bit more attention to what I was reading and allowing myself to absorb the stories and then giving it a space at the end of each one and then starting it up again. So yeah, instantly relatable, I think, with these stories. Deb, you talked about, it's like either with yourself or somebody that you can relate to these stories, somebody. So I kind of felt the same way. I mean, one of them that related to me really was the chicken and egg, about a woman who had the most beautiful hair. I imagined her hair, and I've never had beautiful hair like that in my life. And she slowly loses it. And I went through that. I have a lot of fine hair, but if I do lose hair, I see it, You start to see your scalp and that, and definitely going through menopause, I've been experiencing hair loss and talking to my doctor going, no, you don't understand what it's like as a woman to lose your hair. Like it's frightening, and you feel like your body's betraying you, and there doesn't seem to be any answer. And, they say it's stress, and it's like, okay, well, send me for a stress test then. It's like, well, we can't really do that because that's not, anyway, on and on. So I really felt this woman, I felt all her time she was going to the doctor to find out why her hair was falling out and not really getting an answer. So that was sort of the most relatable personally for me. What about you guys?
Yeah, that one I can relate to as well, because I've got very fine hair, and I love this time of year as we're approaching Halloween because I love wigs. I do have a collection of wigs, yes, and I'm looking for excuses to wear them because most of them aren't, your regular tones, the colors. But yeah, I'm also going through that. But also, being a single woman and somebody or everybody thinking, if you get into a relationship, are you going to create a family? So the first story, I guess it was the first story, wasn't it?
The deal breaker.
The deal breaker.
The
yeah.
deal
And I mean,
breaker.
I'm sure there are many people who have deal breakers when it comes to relationships. Is it a casual thing? Can we do this without confirming that we need to move into so many weeks, so many months without having to check off this list? But yeah, I think there's always so much pressure on a woman, no matter what the relationship status might be. Like if she's, into a serious relationship, they both want to have kids or not wanting to have kids. I just think that a lot of these stories, if men were to read them, there might be a lot of men who would.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Kind of step back and think, is this really how we treat you? Is this what women go through on dates all the time?
Yeah,
And you'd have to say yes.
Anything with like the microaggressions in some of the dating stories, paying half your way on a date and being frugal with money. And that's always an interesting topic in relationships. I really like the I am an asshole, or am I the asshole after? Because I think as we get older as women, we are taking up a little bit more space or a little bit more confident, and maybe we say things, we don't sugarcoat them. And so reading that, sometimes I'm like, I just sometimes say what's on my mind, and I don't know if I should. Am I just trying to be open and honest, or is it coming across as like I'm being a bit of an asshole? And so that was an interesting one too, where she couldn't really say the things she was feeling to her partner. She had to go online and ask for support and help. And I think that's what happens with the online community. You post something there, you have to be prepared for what people are going to say. So I enjoyed that chapter.
I'm such a geek. It's like I've never been on Reddit. I didn't even. So that whole chapter on, am I the asshole? I'm like reading it going, I need to go on Reddit and see, I didn't even know what an OP was, original poster. Okay. So I didn't know that people just, ask these questions and that people just go and respond in this online community. So that was a learning thing for me because I didn't know about it. So now I'm actually going to go and take a peek and see exactly what is going on that site,
I've been there before, but I don't really understand. I've just, looking for certain answers about community. And my brother was one who, if you have a question about anything in a new city, just do a search on Reddit and somebody will provide that for you.
Exactly.
Good to know.
Yes.
Good to know. I could have used that in Montreal. I really could have.
Oh, yeah.
I should have. Yeah, just to try to navigate my way around that city. What did you guys think about the short story Death by a Thousand Cuts? And she talks about finding a company that changes eye color.
Yeah.
That was super freaky for me. Super
Very freaky.
Yeah.
But isn't that even just go to, okay, so maybe we can't relate to wanting to change your eye color. When I was younger, I did have green and blue contacts that I wore. But I think that just goes to that whole thought process of wanting to change something about yourself and going down that Google rabbit hole to see if things like that exist because someone's made a comment or said something. And in that case, it was the boyfriend saying something like, about if she had blue eyes or something like that, how their kids would turn out. And yeah, I mean, that's not something you can really change about yourself unless there is some kind of, is there a procedure like that? I don't know. I don't know if it exists.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think there is something similar. I'm pretty sure at the back of I guess we could ask her, but I'm sure at the back of her book, she did mention a similar company or similar procedure. But, you can get, tattoos in your, you can change the color of your eye with a tattoo now. So, yeah, it's, I guess you could do probably just about anything to change your appearance. But that one is, it's such a sensitive
and I think
area.
My sense was like, ick. I wrote down one of the lines that the author wrote about that particular short story. It was, embrace your natural beauty, discover the lighter, brighter you. And I'm like, your natural beauty. And yet you're saying, well, obviously your natural beauty isn't enough because you want to change it. So I thought that was kind of a weird sentence. And it just kind of, yeah.
Well, that's the interesting thing. Yeah, I think this novel is one you don't read in one go. That's what I did because, like we said, we are used to that. But I think it's like short story, you read the short story and then you kind of take that time to digest it. And because there was like a learning message in all these, right? So it's just knowing what it was. But yeah, like reading it in one go, you're kind of mixing some of the messages up. So I definitely, if I read it again, I would take those pauses.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Times where I forgot that they were short stories and did sort of the same thing, like kept going in and wondering what happened to that relationship or where are we now?
Yeah.
I actually have a friend who, before she met her husband and got married, for about a year, went out on dates with a number of men. There were a lot of, She's a beautiful woman, very successful, had a lot going on. So there were a lot of men who she would, meet in the community. They were hobnobbing because of, events they were attending. They were well-to-do men. She had no interest in them. They had a lot of interest in her, and she was so tired of saying no when they asked her out for a dinner date, she finally decided, okay, I'm going to say yes. And she, again, did that for about a year with a number of different guys, nothing beyond the dinner, but I think they were always thinking that it might go beyond that, so they kept asking her.
That is so great because in the book there's the whole topic of what is it, foodie call, and around like not paying for your meal or going on a date. And I think there was an article like years ago that a woman actually admitted that she didn't, she went out 6 days a week for like 2 years and got free meals. But I think in today's climate where grocery and everything is so expensive, and if somebody wants to wine and dine you and it's been going on a year and they're not getting anything else out of it, maybe it's just you keep it going. I don't know what the answer to this is. If someone's offering, it's not like you're saying, can you take me? Can you pay for me? But if someone's like, I would love to spoil you and take you out, sounds good.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a situation about when I first moved to Vancouver, and I was 23. I was pretty naive, but I went out for a date with this guy. Don't even know how I met him, and I offered to pay my share, and he's like, no, don't worry about it. I'm, okay, fine. And then we walked out to his car. It was the summertime. He was in a convertible, and I was just going to go get the train home. And he's like, well, aren't you, like, we're going to go somewhere else after this, maybe back to my place or whatever. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think so. And he called me a nasty name, and I took a 20 out of my purse and I threw it at him and
Good
said
for
some
you.
nasty words to him, and I walked away. So it's like, sometimes you offer to pay and they say no, and then
They're
and then
expecting
nasty
something,
stuff.
and they're holding that over you.
Expectation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was like, ooh,
Gosh.
still remember that. Ick.
Oh, that's total
Oh
ick.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Total ick. Yeah. Yeah. But these stories, they're about relationships. And one of the things that I actually have never thought about, and Shashi wrote it, is that, when you're swiping as a single and looking at profiles, you go beyond the person that you're looking at, and you're thinking about all the different lives you could have. Like, when you start to date someone, you start to get to know their friends, and then you get relatives, and then you get a family, right? So it's like, I'm like, I never really thought of that. Like, every person has a different life. You could be going into a different life. Well, you would be, right? And I never thought that deep. And I thought that was kind of interesting that she brought that up, because I've never, ever thought of that on all the internet dating and stuff that I've done. Well, it was just like, get past the first date, and then, but then it is about friends, family, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And not being afraid to ask those questions. Like you say, when you're younger, if you meet your partner younger, you're not really asking a lot of those questions. You still haven't figured out your career. Like I met my now husband when I was 19. So at that point, I have not thought about a lot of things. I have not thought about, what I'm going to do for, where I'm going to be working, where I'm going to be living, how many kids we're going to have, and all that. And it kind of just came with time before we got married. Like, we were together about 7 years before we got married. So we had a lot of time to figure it out. But at the same time, I think now, you, as you get older, you don't have the 7 years to put into date. You're just like, what do you want in your life? Do you want children? Yes or no? What is your relationship with your family? Is family important to you? Or, are we doing family with, Thanksgiving and Christmas with my family? Like, you have to kind of put it all out there, and it can scare people who are just looking for the casual hookup or whatever. But at the same time, we can ask those questions because you want to not waste time in your life. You don't have that energy to date someone for years and not have a plan for what you both want.
Yeah. And, I think about, I just got back from vacation, and we met a bunch of people that had, they're my age and retiring. And I came away from that vacation with a couple of observations. And one of them was, I need a plan, because I don't have one, and I'm getting older, and every year, and the second one is like, I kind of related to some of these stories where, like, I'm with somebody and, like, I'm hearing them chew their food, or I'm hearing, like, little things that are, like, irritating me. And I'm like, Tanya, I think you've been single too long. Like, I wonder sometimes if maybe. Anyway, I went to this store in Parry Sound. Sorry, I'm going on a bit. In Parry Sound, which is up above the Muskokas, and this woman has a bookstore that has over 300,000 books, and she knows where all the books are. Anyway, I happened to go into the relationship corner, didn't even know, and I saw this book that said, "Fix That Shit." And what it is about, it's about maybe in the relationship, it's not the other person, maybe it's you. And I picked up the book, and I'm going to read the book, because I thought, well, maybe I need to look at myself in something. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent.
No, that's
here,
great, though.
This
But
is
that
all about relationships, right?
And that ties into, am I the asshole, right? Like, when we start to think
am I the asshole?
The other person is doing something, and, like, even with my partner, right? Like, had we met now, would we still want each other? Like, we've kind of grown together, but now at the age I'm at, if I am single, am I still choosing the same person, or have we just kind of grown to accept each other's faults? We all have them. When it gets to the point where it's too much, you have to understand, why is this triggering me? Why am I so bothered by their actions if they're not bad actions, right? Some people do chew loudly. Some people snore. Some people do things, and it's out of their hands, but it's like, do you, like, dislike that person? Because because of those little flaws, but overall they love you, right? But it's have you guys seen Nobody Wants This? The show with Kristen Bell and Adam Brody. Okay, watch this. Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Okay, I got to watch it.
You do, but it reminds me of like this one conversation around, like, Tanya, you mentioned getting the ick or the ick factor, where, you know, things are so great and then you suddenly start to think, oh my God, yeah, like they're chewing too loudly, or they don't do this. The toilet paper's facing the wrong way. Like, you get into your head, but it's like, really, is it going to matter? And I think that's like what you said, when we have to look at ourselves and understand, why is something bothering us? Like, am I the
Well, once I finish
My
reading
mom
the
had
book,
asked me
I'll be
a
able to
couple
tell
of-
you if I'm.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I know my mom had asked me a couple of times over the years. She said, can you just stop and take a moment and look at this person's good thing? Like the good, don't always look at the negatives. If you can look at their good things first, focus on that, and then see where the bad things, or what you consider bad things, are taking you, because you seem to focus more on the bad than the good. And again, not like really bad things, but it could be, just habits that annoy you, or things that you wouldn't do. So I don't know. I think we do. I agree. We do get into our heads a lot more. But
Yeah, you know, and my mom, Deb, said, and of course, this was a thing a few years ago, that whole thing, resting face, right? You've heard that,
Yes.
right? And so my mom told me one time, we were in this store, and this is before she passed, and she said, Tanya, she says, you know, you don't have a very pleasant look on your face. She goes, nobody's ever going to like come up to you because you look like you're such a. And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know that when I'm concentrating or I'm looking at something that I get this look on my face. And I'm like, maybe that's why. I don't know.
But we
It was
can't
just sort of
very
like
serious.
We can't always be smiling. There are moments you're thinking or you're pondering, and then, you know, it's like, oh, why do you
Deep
look
in
like
thoughts.
that? Yes.
Yeah.
But as long as if someone acknowledges you, and then you're not like, hi, and it continues. If you can shift and say hello
that
back,
exact voice.
then I think we're okay. But like, again, this is a great, I think I would definitely go back and read these slowly and really pick up on the messaging, because there is like a great message in all of them, and a lot of things to kind of ponder. And I think the three of us have talked about this, that we're just kind of at that point when we read a book, we think about it, we ponder it, and then we look, there's reflection about what can we be doing in our life to change things that for the better for yourself, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay.
great reads.
Yeah. I do have to go back.
Yeah.
I really do. I do. It was a quick one.
As always, lovely chatting with you both.
Lovely chatting.
Ooh.
And as always, thank you to you for listening along. You can always turn on your notifications to know when the next podcast will be out. Our next one will feature a Q&A with the author of Death by a Thousand Cuts, Shashi Bhat. So tune in for that. Have a good one.
Thank you for kicking back and relaxing with us. We hope you'll join us again on Relaxing Reads.